Nabeela Syed has scripted history by becoming the youngest member to get elected to Illinois General Assembly in the recently held US midterm elections. Nabeela received 52.3% votes to defeat her Republican opponent Chris Boss. Sharing her excitement on Twitter, she posted a tweet, and since then this tweet has gone completely viral. Nabeela introduced herself to the world writing, and I quote her here, "My name is Nabeela Syed. I am a 23-year-old Muslim Indian American woman." Joining me now, Nabeela Syed, at this moment. Nabeela, thank you so much for joining us here. Congratulations on being elected as the state representative-elect, and welcome to NDTV. Thank you for being with us. I want to start by asking you, there has been this entire talk about the red wave which was building up before this election. It has been reduced to a ripple. By all polls and pundits, they predicted Republicans could win big. What changed? How did the Democrats change the tide?
I think the Democrats had the right messaging. They talked about the issues that mattered. Lots of people are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about our freedoms and protecting our rights. And that's what the Democrats talked about. But here in our district, lots of people said that an Indian woman wouldn't be able to win in this kind of Republican-held district. Many people said that, but we did what was most important. We went to people's doors, we knocked on them, we talked to them about what issues matter most to them, and we communicated our message. And you're right, that red wave across our entire country became a red ripple.
You know, I just want to also understand from you, because I was reading and going through your post as well that you had put out. And a lot of people were commenting on the fact that, it's time for young people to step up. People were quite excited about a young representative that they have chosen. You've also specifically spoken about the abortion issue. In your post, you say that, you will fight for women's right for reproductive health care, and also about the young voters who came out and voted in large numbers for you. Was there a connect, and what kind of response did you get on all these issues?
I would say the response was fairly positive. Many people in this country are in favor of reproductive health care freedoms, and that's one of the issues that is close to home for me, is very, very important for me to be talking about. And I think young voters also believe that. And I believe young voters were very, very excited about this midterm election. They came out and voted in droves. And I believe that's why, a big reason why the red wave was not as strong as everyone thought it would be, is because young voters came out. And it's so important for me as a young woman, as a young Indian woman, to inspire other folks to believe that we have space in politics. We belong in politics. It doesn't necessarily just belong to other people. We came, my parents immigrated to this country. They came from Hyderabad, and it's important that we continue to represent, even in a place that is now our home.
Yeah. When Rishi Sunak became the Prime Minister of Great Britain, a lot of people in India were completely euphoric about that fact. There were celebrations. Did you also receive a lot of messages from back home India?
Yes, I did. And that has been one of the best feelings, to just get messages, WhatsApp messages from folks in India that are very inspired, and people saying that you're so inspiring. I feel like my daughter can run for office now. And it's very incredible and humbling to feel like this campaign has had an impact beyond just America.
I also would like to ask you, about the brave fight and the protests that are going on in Iran. Women there, in fact, spearheading these protests, facing the brutality of the regime there, pressing for their right to not wear a hijab. I also want to, in fact, put across a contrast in India, where a few months back there were protests where in one state, educational institutions had banned people wearing hijab. As a practicing Muslim who wears a hijab, where do you stand on this?
So I want to make it very clear that me wearing a hijab was my choice. It was my decision. You cannot impose religion on anyone. You cannot force someone to wear a hijab, and you can't force someone to not wear a hijab. So I think in both of those cases, we should be giving these young women the right to choose. when it comes to reproductive freedoms, when it comes to wearing a hijab. I'm so lucky to have had that choice, and I choose every single day to wear a hijab and represent Muslims and be very proud of it. But I believe that choice is necessary, and oppression is entirely wrong.
Has there any, moment or any incident being there in America, being a Muslim wearing a hijab? Have you ever felt, that you were discriminated upon, or did it ever, in fact, to bring any doubts in your head when you ran for this office?
I will say people told me not to run because they said, Nabeela, you're Indian. Nabeela, you wear a hijab. You're visibly Muslim. Maybe you should let someone else run for the seat. And even when I went to high school here, it was not necessarily always easy. There was some bullying. There were some people that would call me some names. But I will say the response, considering how infrequent those interactions were, the positive response we have gotten has been so exciting from people in the community, from people across the country, from people across the world. So I will say that there has been a lot more good than bad.
There is a narrative and fear by some people about the current Indian regime not being sympathetic enough about the minorities in India. What's your viewpoint on that?
I want to make sure that people in India are not being discriminated against because of their religion. It is very important all across the world to make sure that religious discrimination is not happening. In America, we have the freedom for religion and the freedom from religion. So you could choose to exercise your religion and you could choose not to exercise a religion at all. But I believe that people should not be discriminated and harmed because of their faith.
In the end, I just want to, ask you, it's quite exciting that you trace your roots in the largest democracy in the world, and now you are part of one of the oldest democracies in the world. What are the similarities and differences that you see between India and America and the way our democracies function?
I think I'm very, very grateful that, my parents can trace their roots back and I can trace my roots back to the largest democracy in the world. And now here we are in America. And I think we need to continue to protect democracy. We need to make sure that people have access to voting. They're able to make their voices heard in the legislative process, and they're able to elect leaders that they believe will bring change, positive change to the communities.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you. All the best for your political future. It's just the beginning for you. 23-year-old Nabeela Syed, congratulations, and fantastic on the job and the work that you have done so far, and the accomplishment of being the youngest, one of the youngest representatives in America. Thank you so much for speaking to NDTV.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been an honor.